Well, howdy, physics sleuths and inquisitive souls, and welcome again to yet another lecture of Sermon of Sean. So, today we're going to talk about Zoroastrian. Okay? Now, this religion is important for a few reasons, even though it's very small now. I think in its heyday, like its prime, it only had like a few million followers. Very small. And now, it's only got like 100, 200,000. This is like a small city, you know? That's it. Out of the entire planet that believes and tries to adhere to Zoroastrian. It's a very small religion now. But it's still relevant. And you might be asking, but Sean, why? Why do you care? Why do you want me to care about this little itty-bitty religion? And it's simple. Because I said so! I'm just fucking with you. No, because that's what we're going to go into. Alright? We're going to explain all of this. You know what? I feel like a little more. Fuck that. You know, when I was in the army, killing people for a living, they told me I had a drinking problem. I told them only because you won't let me do any other fucking drugs, bitch. Give me some good ones, and I won't drink at all. They didn't think my joke was funny. And then I made it clear to them that it wasn't a joke. I'm not fucking kidding. So, Zoroastrian. Let's dig into this. Alright? So, around the time of Moses, no one knows exactly when. It could have been right before Moses. It could have been shortly after. Okay? But around the time of Moses, probably realistically shortly after Moses, after God had gotten done, settled, you know, the Israelites, you know, and bringing them back to Israel for a while. Now he wanted to, you know, set up some religion in other places, and Zoroastrian comes from one of God's prophets. All right, and this is the same God is Judaism. Okay, same God, monotheistic religion. Now they give them different names, and they have a whole bunch of other variants. It's kind of complicated, like Hinduism, which is something you'd expect of an older religion, right? A lot of people think that Hinduism is a polytheistic religion. There's many gods. There is not in Hinduism. I can assure you. There is only one God in Hinduism. Shiva, the supreme being, the one above all. Now you have all sorts of powered up beings for various different reasons that, by all intents and purposes, to our perspective, are gods, like Lord Hari. But the Kalki Purana, when we studied that, we learned Lord Hari is actually the son of Shiva. He's related to Shiva. He's not his own thing. He is a thing of Shiva. Shiva is all in Hinduism. Shiva is the supreme being. All the other gods have to have a elixir that they drink, all right, that makes them immortal, and they carry it with them. I guess they have to drink it regularly, all right? And that's how they're gods. The elixir makes them godly. Shiva drink no elixir. Shiva just is godly. Okay? If you need any clarification on that. But we're not talking about Hinduism. I just want you to know it's complicated, okay? It's complicated like Hinduism. But ultimately, as with all of God's religions, it's the exact same message. Everything's being done exact same. It's the same methodology. It's all the same MO. So whoever has been creating all these religions throughout all of human history has been using essentially the same blueprint. Now, you could argue that's because that's the one that works, and so whenever men do that, that's the one that's successful. That's what I thought for most of my life for a long time, until God changed my mind. And then I realized the architect of religion was not man, but God. And it's embedded throughout the whole thing, because if it were man, it would tell you to obey the beast, the godless governments. Do whatever the beast tells you. That's your fucking God, bitch. But this is not what any religion tells you. All the religions tell you, don't trust the beast. He's your enemy. Trusting the beast is a good, sure way to go to hell. What the fuck government would tell that to their own people if they made that religion? But don't trust us because we're the sure path to hell. When you think about these things, the only way it makes sense is if God is in place, okay? And that's the perspective that is generating these religions, all right? So I want you to keep that in mind as we go over Zoroastrian. So, it all starts with one of God's prophets, Zoroaster, okay? Now, there's a lot here, okay? And we're going to go over the Cliff Notes version. Well, Zoroaster came about in Iran, okay? And he was tasked by God, by the supreme being of Zoroastrian, goes by a different name, different culture, blah, 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 to found the Zoroastrian religion. And it is almost a hodgepodge of all of the major religions we have now, okay? It has all of the features of all of the major religions. So you can say it definitely is the blueprint for a lot of religions. You may be asking how. Well, Islam, they have the Hajj, or they have to go on a pilgrimage, okay? And even before Muhammad came around and founded Islam, they had, paganistic religions that they worshipped a lot instead of Allah. And Allah was like a female goddess of all instead of a male goddess of all. But they worshipped Allah instead of Allah. And they would do a pilgrimage still once a year. It was their religion long before Muhammad came around. Muhammad just stuck to the tradition because it was cultural and traditional. Okay. Zoroastrians also have like pilgrimages. Okay. They also have one God. It's a monotheistic religion, but they have many other powered up deities as Hinduism that complicate everything. Okay. And there's also this thing, okay, Zoroastrian. There's a lot here. You can tell. There's a lot to this religion. It's an old religion. There's a lot of things. But what I want you to focus on right now is this thing called the threefold path, okay? Now, Buddhism has what's called the fourfold path. Or my bad, the eightfold path. The Four Noble Truths and the eightfold path, okay? And the eightfold path is basically, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Almost like the same thing of 10 Commandments over and over again. And that's considered the path to godliness, to being a good person that God's going to respect and want to deal with and take seriously. Okay? Not an animalistic being that just wants to be an animal and fucking fight and feast. Alright? And these three paths are Humata, Hexta, and Huvarashata. Okay? And what they mean is good thoughts, good deeds, I'm not about good words and good deeds. Okay? Does that sound so far-fetched to you? That you have in a religion, it's one of God's religions, and the sole princess behind it is just try and think good thoughts, say good things, and do good deeds. And you'll be surprised at the good things that come back around towards you and society in general. This is the overarching lesson of all of God's religions. It's a blueprint for how humans are to live with each other in a way that's in accordance with God, so that we can live with God when we're done here. Okay? Same MO, same blueprint. Over and over and over again. It never changes. Unless, of course, you're asking a Christian. Then for some reason they believe, fuck everyone else on the planet, only Christians are saved because we're the true believers, and it doesn't matter whether you're good or bad, fuck you, you burn in hell because you didn't believe in Jesus Christ was God. It's like, fuck you. You don't know your God. Shut the fuck up. Just shut up, listen, and take notes for a while. Okay? No more words from me for a while about that shit. Alright? If you think that your God gives one solitary fuck whether you believe in him versus whether you do good deeds or bad deeds to all around you, you don't know your fucking God in the slightest, my son. And that's just the true cold, hard reality of it. Okay? Now, as with all religions, if you're good, you get rewarded and you get to unite with God and go to heaven. If you're bad, you get punished. Reward, punishment, happiness, grief depend on how individuals live their lives. As with all religions, except Christians for some reason. It's like when you die, it's like the best analogy is the Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead. You know, when you die, he has a big scale, and he takes your good deeds and put them on one half, and your bad deeds and put them on the other half. And whichever half weighs more depends on where you go, which direction, left or right, up or down. Notice, this is a common thing that keeps popping up in every single religion, especially Christianity. I believe I looked in the Bible once, and I believe it says no less than like 30 times or something around there, you will be judged by your deeds when you die. Essentially, in words to that effect. Does not say, when you die, you're going to be asked, how good of a believer were you? No, never says this. It says, when you die, you're going to be judged by your deeds. That's the deal. That's the covenant. But for some reason, people don't want to have that conversation. All right. So, Zoroastrian is an old religion, okay? But Zoroaster, being one of God's prophets, he was given prophetic visions about the future, okay? And those visions, some of them included 3 more messiahs to come. Masonic figures, which Zoroaster calls a Saoshyant. Okay? Saoshyant. One of the two. Okay? Now, this is where things start to get a little interesting, because all of God's religions, whether it's Hinduism with Kalki, whether it's Judaism with the Messiah, whether it's Christianity with the Comforter, the second witness, or whether it is Islam with the Mahdi, they all have a Messiah figure that is a human man born in the end days that is chosen by God because of the way he lives his life. He's given a fiery sword and a white horse, and then he is tasked by God to essentially conquer the world for him and slay all evil, so that he can then give the world, after it's conquered, to its true rightful owner, or King of Kings, which we know, of course, will be Jesus Christ, the one who's set to inherit the throne above all, okay, and really lead us into the golden era, all right? This is a recurring theme amongst all religions, but the names change, you know? Slight things change, but overall it's the same story over and over and over, okay? So, for Saoshyant, the word means the one who brings benefit. So he's a benefactor, okay? He gives benefit, brings good benefit, okay? Just like in Christianity, the Comforter, the second witness, brings comfort to the believers, to the survivors, to those that follow God. He comforts them. Well, and Zoroastrian, he's called Saoshyant, and he brings benefit. He makes people feel better about everything, okay? Because he fixes things. He's a fixer, okay? So, epistemology, blah, blah, blah. Here, I think, now, there's not too much scripture where they go into much detail. There's a few where they have, like, some verses, but it's not many. There's not a whole lot. Like, there's not volumes written about the Saoshyant like there is in other religions, okay? But, the Saoshyant is given, one of his weapons is Varathragna, okay? What is Varathragna? Varathragna is symbolized by a white horse. Okay? And in fact, I think it even says here, white horse. And the remaining 7 forms of animals of both gold, a white horse with ears and muzzle, a camel, a heat, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the Varathragna is not exclusively associated with military might and victory. So, for instance, it can connect it to sexual potency and confers virility. The ability to heal and renders wonderful begins with enumeration 10 forms, okay? So, the Varathragna is not really meant to be a weapon, but it can be a weapon. But it's a white horse, so we know you can travel on it. And it's also a symbol of might and connected with sexual potency and confers virility. What the fuck is this? This is all explained in the Kalki Purana that I went over like last month with you, okay? Kalki is given Devi Dada, Lord Shiva's white horse that he allows Kalki to use to travel anywhere on the planet via thought instantaneously. Now, Kalki uses this as a weapon during many battles. He takes the gravity generators and locks on to entire groups of enemy combatants and just hurls them into the air as he's flying through the battlefield. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, just going through, wreaking havoc, okay? So, this is what it means when they say that Vivadada, or in here, Varathragna, is a weapon, and also it's a chariot, and it's many other things. And it's also connected with sexual potency and confers fertility. What is this? In Kalki Purana, we know that Kalki is chosen by Shiva because Kalki is his number 1 disciple in that generation. Number 1 disciple. Just like in the Bible, the second witness, the comforter, is God's number 1 disciple. Okay? Jesus is God's son. Kalki, or Saoshyant, or the comforter, is God's number 1 disciple. Okay? Close, but not the same thing. Okay? Well, in Shivites, those who worship Shiva, I love Lord Shiva, I love Lord Shiva. The number 1 disciple, every generation, is given what's called the Shiva Lingam. Okay? The Shiva Lingam means Shiva, God, Lingam, dick. The God dick. It's a blessing that is bestowed upon the number 1 disciple every generation. And what they're given is an amazing dick that has miraculous sexual potency and great fertility, and it also gives the benefit, additional, it powers them up in many different ways. It makes them just a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, a little bit smarter, just a little bit everything. It's like an overall buff of like +2 stats all around if you're an MMO player, okay? A very powerful buff. But it's not necessarily going to be the one all deciding factor in anything. But it is a very powerful one-up buff that can, that anybody would want to have, okay? But only one person is given it every generation. So the Saoshyant is the one who's going to get this buff. So this is why he's also being associated with sexual potency and virality, because he is Shiva's God's number one disciple, and God has blessed him for that generation, among other things, and choosing him to wield his powers to slay all evil on the planet, and really set us up for the golden age, okay? Important things that we're starting to learn, okay? Now, there is a whole lot of stuff here, okay? This is a very interesting religion, like I said, and I do not have time to go off into a lot of this stuff, but here's some of their divine beings, but like I said, they are monotheistic, but yet they also believe in Ahuras, Ahura Mazda, Ahura Mithra, Yazata, Yazatas, Anisha Spintas. These are all powered up beings. They're not God, but one of them is. But forever, they're they do things. Okay. But we know it is one of the oldest continuous practice of monotheistic religions. It is ultimately a monotheistic religion, despite the confusion, just like Hinduism. It is what it is. Ancient Persia, by the prophet Zoroaster or Zoroaster, started to worship the supreme uncreated deity Ahura Mazda. Its followers strive to live by simply a profound maxim: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. One God. Cosmic dualism. Now, this is one of the things that's in every single, religion. You have this good forces battling out bad forces, and they embody them with, morphologies, whatever, that the human mind can easily grasp and understand, but it's not really what's going on. Zoroastrians have a love of nature, particularly the elements like fire. They do have some text, but not as many as you would think. It is technically older than Judaism, okay? It's older than Judaism by about 1,000 years. But that's heavily debated, and it's not factual 100%, okay? Blah, 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 migrated Western India. Most of the Zoroastrians live in India now. That's where they found their refuge. Global population, 1 to 200,000. Not a whole lot, okay? But I want you to know it is a monotheistic religion despite all of this, okay? It's confusing. You just have to accept the world is confusing sometimes, and that's the way it is, okay? Now, I said that Saoshyant gets the Rathragna, a white horse that is many other things. Does he get a fiery sword as well? Not in this end times prophecy. He doesn't have a fiery sword per se. The evidence that Saoshyant, the Masonic savior, does not wield a fiery sword. Instead, he is believed to use spiritual weapons like truth and righteousness, as well as a club representing obstacles. Kalki's also fights with a club, just so you know, a lot of times. And it's a symbolistic thing when he goes into battle. Basically, man, this is already a victory. You can't beat me. The concept, the white horse is actually a characteristic of Kalki, prop size, blah, 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 blah. Yes, and other ones. But, just so you know, technically he does not have a fiery sword in this prophecy, but he does conquer people with truth, alright? And like in the Kalki Purana, we know that Kalki is a being of truth. He never lies. He always tries to tell the truth the best he can. That's his thing. That's why God loves him so much. In the Bible, the second witness, it says he is like a straight up, a truthful guy. In fact, I don't think he's called the Spirit of Truth. Maybe he is called the Spirit of Truth. But it's said in the Bible many times that the second witness is going to be a very honest, on the level, respectful, truthful guy. Okay? This is an overwhelming quality that every religion says that their Messiah will have. He's going to be honest, and that's how he's going to win people over. He's going to have access, like in a Kalki Purana. He's got a floating parrot that follows him wherever he goes, that knows everything that ever did happen, that's currently happening, and ever will happen. And whenever Kalki doesn't know something, he just asks the parrot, "What's up with this?" Okay. Because Kalki needs to know the truth to serve the truth. Okay? Second witness, Messiah, head of days, whatever you want to call him, Saoshyant. Right? Now, there's a lot of things that come around with Saoshyant that we learn that are very interesting, that reaffirm what we learned with Kalki and the Comforter. Okay? They call it the final renovation of the world. Okay? Ushering the golden age, the final time that God is going to intervene and lay the smackdown on humanity and send a prophet and our Messiah figure to lead us in the proper direction. The final time. Right? The one who brings benefit. Okay? And the Gaithas, most sacred horns, believe, refer to prophets' omissions, community followers, Saoshyant, blah, blah. Saoshyant appears in the name of the younger advance, especially Yash. The singular name, alternate name for Saoshyant, singular appears Yashna. So there's more than one, okay? Zoroaster believed, divine recompense, described to give Saoshyants the power to making wonderful. So God has powered these dudes up to do good things. Does it say on this one or the next one? I think that's the next one. We'll read it all. That's all good information. Our scripture properly developed on traditions, rules so far during the final renovation, blah, 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 Zoroastrian tradition. Okay, here we go. Zoroastrian tradition envisioned 3 future saviors. Okay? At the end of each 1,000-year period, give or take. Okay? The last 3,000 years of the world. Okay? 3,000 years, 3 prophets. All 3 will be born of maidens conceived when their mothers will bathe in a lake, miraculously preserve the seed of the prophet Zoroaster himself. This is not true. They believe that all of the messiahs are related to Zoroaster, like sons of him, from he bathing in a lake once, and then a virgin will go in that lake, and his seed will still be swimming there, and it will go in her, and she'll get pregnant. This is not true. Okay, but this is an important alludation to where some of the prophets, like Moses and Jesus, and probably the second witness, are going to have some sort of divinity bloodline that they can trace back to whatever. Okay, so I think that's what that message is trying to say. But we know Moses is probably not one of the 3 prophets. Okay, because by all intents and purposes, Zoroaster appears to have came just after Moses. So his visions of the 3 prophets probably did not include Moses. So who are the 3 prophets? Jesus, definitely one. Definitely one prophet was Jesus. Virgin, born to, bloodline, taught the world many things, tried to lead it, all this and that. The second one is probably Muhammad, okay? Because remember, this is all about 1000 BC, let's say. So he wants to say that in 3,000 years, there's going to be 3 prophets. So we got Jesus at 1,000 years later, about 1 BC. Then we're going to have Muhammad 500 years after Jesus, okay? And Muhammad is going to lead the whole Arab world. We also have Buddha. Buddha was also a prophet too, Siddhartha Gautama. But we don't know if they're including him or Muhammad. Maybe they're including Buddha, not Muhammad. I'm not 100% certain, okay? But the 3rd prophet, one's Jesus, and one is definitely going to be Saoshyant, okay? Now, the other prophet, Like I said, in that period, you could say either it's Buddha or Muhammad, whoever he's referring to. Either or will work. Personally, I think both are pretty equal and solid in their standing and what they did and their accomplishments and their prowess in the eyes of God. I don't want to choose who would be more or less, but just know that Zoroaster, and is given the vision by God that 3 separate prophets would come and push the world forward as they have. Okay. Now, the story of the Saoshyant's conception, early described, blah, blah, blah. 30 years before the decisive battle, the maiden named, blah, 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 victorious helper, whose name is Body Maker, entered the lake Kanasha, saving the water. The young girl who is not associated with men will receive victorious knowledge. Her son, when born, not known nourishment from his mother's body, will be sunlight and royal glory, and will be there in the next 57 years. He will subside only on vegetables, then water, and then go on the final 10 years on spiritual food. Okay? The events of the final innovation are described, the battle of evil, yes, not, and it will be unlike the earth and the river, but the righteous will not be harmed. Unfortunately, the Bible tells us that's not entirely on the level, but try to. Eventually, where Mazda will triumph and the agent of Saoshyant will be resurrected from the dead. So, the Kalki Purana does not explain the resurrection. It just simply says that Kalki goes from being a baby, where he's being watched by various angelic and godly entities overseeing him and teaching him and leading him things, and then one day he just wakes up and he goes to Mount Krishna and he just prays towards Shiva, and Shiva takes him, and then he becomes powered up. Okay. But in every other religion, the Messiah dies. Okay. It's like the Bible. Perfect example. The Messiah dies for 3.5 days and is resurrected, just like Jesus. Jesus, you can argue that the 2 witnesses combined are the one true Messiah for the world. Jesus and the Comforter, the second witness, together they make the one thing God needs to take over all. Okay? Like good cop, bad cop, they are synergetically working together. Okay? So just know, it's telling you that Saoshyant is going to die and then be resurrected by God before he's powered up and given the task to destroy all evil in the world. Just like the second witness and the Comforter in the Bible. Identical. They just don't give you a time period of how long he'll be dead. Whose bodies will be restored to eternal perfection. Okay, they'll be powered up. Whose souls will be cleansed and reunited with God. Time will then end. The truth and righteousness, Ashna, and immortality thereafter will be everlasting. So, this is now telling you, after he's done cleansing the world and giving the 1,000-year period of the golden age. Now, it doesn't tell you this, but what it does say is that the whole point of Saoshyant coming and cleansing the world of evil is so that eventually the world will cease to exist. And then everyone who is alive will be cleansed and reunited with God. This goes back to Kalki Purana and the Bible. Okay? In the Kalki Purana, we have 12,000 years period cycles of the God's soul farm, and it keeps cyclic over and over. And that we right now are 11,000 years into that 12,000 year cycle. We're at the end. Okay? So, we still have the 1,000-year golden period, which means that any day now, I believe in about 4 months, the end of the world is going to occur, and then the Saoshyant will come about and will cleanse the world of evil. Okay? And then humanity will live properly with God for a while before everybody dies, and then the good people are united with God, and the bad people are just kind of left out and punished eternally by not being invited to the after party. Okay? So, we have the exact same story being told as in the Bible. The Bible says you're going to have the 1,000-year golden age ushered in by Jesus and the second witness, comforter. And then humanity is going to have a final rebellion against God, and they're going to surround God's camp, New Jerusalem or heaven, in space, one breath, one width from the earth away. And God's just going to say, fuck it, and destroy them all with fire. And just... And nobody knows whether that means God destroys all of humanity with fire, or whether he just destroys the ones that need to be destroyed. Nobody knows, it's not clarified, and no information is given after that event about the state of anything. So that's why a lot of people think it's the final end. And the Kalki Purana says, yes, it is the end. It is the end of this God's soul farm. It has served his purpose, and now it's time to shut it down, destroy everything, recycle and renew everything, and begin the soul farm again for another 12,000 year period. So once again, we have the same message being taught over and over and over if you read between the lines. The everlasting. The Saoshyant refers to the future Messiah figure that will spread divine truth. And final battle against forces of evil. Zoroaster's own writings, the Agathos term is used to refer to prophetic followers, the bringing humanity, and then there will be 3 future Saophants to restore orders, and the world is fallen to chaos. These will be born of virgins, miraculously preserved by the seed of Zoroaster himself. Last Saoshyant will be the final judgment of humanity and secure the harmony of the world, since he is the one to be chosen. Sorry, you can't read with me. Since he is the one to be chosen by the world thereafter the judgment, eliminating truth itself to be passed on to the deeds of the good thought of the world, as well as the power. It's committed to the Mazuhara, whom people assign the shepherd of the poor. It is speculated that Zoroastrian belief so often will be influenced by Jewish belief in the Messiah. So once again, this is just the experts saying we believe that the two religions are intricately related and have played upon itself for thousands of years, making it very difficult to distinguish what this belief versus this belief of the two religions and how they're separate when they're kind of merged into the same thing because they're all from the same source, God. Okay? Now, this is a final thing I want to go over. It's really interesting, too. There's a lot of information here we need to know. Okay? The passionate discussions of the events that occurred at the end of the age concerning the Magna will take place. Zoroastrians believe the individual called Saophant will usher in the era and the battle against Agamemnon. Saophant sage will be born a virgin, blah, blah, blah. Text will learn how the certain individuals. Zoroaster believes Saophant will be descendant of Zoroastria, the original prophet of Zoroaster. And the importance of Zoroastrians because he believes Saophant, he will bathe in the lake and become pregnant, blah, blah, blah. Which has been kept intact for thousands of years by angels. Interesting. And she'll give birth to Saophant. Okay? Text can talk about the greatness of Saophant, his goodness, his strength, his abilities, and then continues discussing what will happen when Saophant grows up. How he will destroy all evil in the world and lead true Mazda worshippers to defeat Anga the usher of the future existence. This would be the Antichrist and Christianity. Okay? The Antichrist. Anga Mania. Alright? Saophant. When he's 30 years old, there will be a cosmic sign in the sky announcing his identity. And when he is 57 years old, he will vanquish all evil from the world. Now, this timeline is interesting, okay? It's starting to give us a timeline of the Saophant and how old he's going to be when he does this or that, okay? So, where's the saying? We'll go into it in a second. Humanity will be released from evil temptation, which is shown changing diet of humanity. Passage says humans will become vegetarians. Humans will become vegetarians. And then drink only water, drink spiritual food, and this is to signify they're coming, godly, closer to God. Now, what's interesting, Zoroastrians are not vegetarians. They eat meat. But they believe when their Messiah comes around, one of the many changes he's going to instill in our civilization is he's going to make us all vegetarians, because eating meat is just animalistic. It's animalistic just to murder another innocent creature, to burn and consume its flesh for your own subsistence, when you can get the exact same nourishment of substance from plants. You don't have to kill living creatures to eat. And this is one of the tall tale signs of enlightenment. Well, the Kalki Purana also says this. The Kalki Purana also says that when Kalki comes around and cleanses the world of evil, one of the many things he's going to do is to push vegetarianism on everybody, and everybody's going to become vegetarian. Okay? Notice, these are all the same, completely different religions, many thousands of years of difference, and yet they're telling you the exact same fucking message. Think about that. It's all written by the same source. The only question is that source a government written by man, or is it God? Okay? That's the only question, really, if you're the intelligent mind and you're paying attention. And as I said, I fell for this trap myself a long time, many decades. I believed all religions were created by humans and governments to empower them. And then I started learning about the religions and realizing they're not in cahoots with the government at all. If you're an intelligent person and clever, you can figure this all out. God has purposely left a trail of breadcrumbs for you to follow if you give a shit about the truth. Okay? These diet changes symbolize the bettering of humanity. They will no longer need these things in the world as they grow closer to God. You'll no longer desire to hurt innocent creatures. You'll desire to be with God. Scholars often point out similarities between the ideal of Saoshyant and the Messiah, Judaism, which strongly influenced beliefs of surrounding Jesus and Christianity. Furthermore, the ideal of the battle between Saoshyant and Argomaga is compared to the final battle between the Messiah, Jesus, and the Antichrist from both Christianity and Islam. Okay? Now, when the Saoshyant is 30 years at the 10th century, When 30 winters at the 10th century are unelapsed, what the fuck that means? That maiden, Goku, having testified father, walks into the water. Okay, this is about the myth of the prophetic bloodline and how that's instilled through the water. The maiden, whose title over all power, thus overpowering, thus giving birth, she brings forth him who overpowers all. Keep in mind, the overcomer of all is the name that Jesus also gives to the second witness or the comforter. He calls him the second witness, Jesus the first. He calls him the comforter. He calls him the overcomer of all. In Zoroastrian, they call him the one who overpowers all. Same fucking thing, man. Same. Both afflictions owing to demons who also owing to mankind. She then sits in the water. When she was 15 years old, introduces into the girl whose name is... Okay, now we know. Virgin Mary was 15 when she was impregnated with Jesus by the angel, I think Gabriel, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Artificially. This could be an allusion to that, blending with the second witness, who is not going to be born like that. Such benefiter of benefits to the whole and body existence, such a body maker alike possessing a body and possessing life, petitions about the disturbance of the existence of mankind. Not before, then she's associated with men, she becomes pregnant, she's done for a time, she gives birth. When that man becomes 30 years old, the sun stands still in the zenith of the sky for a duration of 30 days and nights. And it arrives again at that place where it is appointed by allotment. So, this is telling us there will be a sign when the Saoshyant is 30 years old. A astronomical cosmological sign that will be apparent to all of those in the heavens. And he's saying that here it's going to be radical. It's going to be like the sun does not move from the zenith, meaning straight up in the sky, for 30 days or 30 nights. I do not believe that is 100% accurate, just like I do not believe of the tale of the virgin that sits in the lake to become impregnated with the seed of Zoroastrian, okay? But this is important because it's telling you that when the Saoshyant, the second witness, becomes 30 years old, something's going to change. He's going to do something that's going to set him on the path that he's going to eventually end on. If you look at the Saoshyant when he's 29 versus 31, you're going to see two totally different people. One, you're not going to recognize. Okay? Totally different people, because something happens to the Saoshyant that sets him on this path. He discovers something about the world, the universe, the heavens, the stars, gravity itself, whatever you want to think it. And it's going to be hidden. We know this because the Bible and the Kalki Purana both say that the chosen one is hidden from all until his time is come, until it's too late. And that's when he's revealed. And when he's too late, that's when you finally know who he is. So don't think you're going to have a clue. He's not going to be anybody you're going to know. Alright? Now, when the Saoshyant is 57 years old, there will occur the annihilation of fiendish, two-legged race of others, subjugation of disease, decrepitude, death, persecution, and the original evil of tyranny, apostasy, and depravity. And there will arise perpetual verdant growth of vegetation and primitive gift of joyfulness, and there are 17 years of vegetable eating. And then of course, yes, the years were whatever. Now, what's interesting about this is it tells us when the Saoshyant is 50, when he's 30 is when he's going to realize something's different, something's changed. When he's 50 is when he's going to start on his task of ridding the world of evil. And when he's 57, he's going to complete that task. Okay? Excuse me. So think about that. Tells us he knows he's different by the age of 30. But he doesn't know he's a Saoshyant until he's 50. Or at least he isn't given the power of the Saoshyant. And within 7 years of him having the power of Varathragna. Okay? He conquers the world of evil. And it's done. He's done. 7 years. Just like the Quran says, the Mahdi will only need 7 years to rid the world of evil. I believe the Bible says it's 7 years too, for the Comforter and the second witness to be done with his task of altering the world forever. Now, the Kalki Purana is a little different. It says it's 20 years, for whatever reason. A little off, but keep in mind, aside from these small discrepancies, it's the same fucking thing. It's the exact same story. The only minuscule detail is everyone else says it's 7 years. Hinduism says it's 20 years. But keep in mind, Kalki gives power to the king. We don't know when he gives that power to the king. It might be 7 years in. We don't know. It doesn't say. So maybe the second witness is still up and kicking for 20 years doing his thing. Helping out the one that he bestows the power to, Lord Jesus, the chosen King of Kings who was born to rightfully wield that power. Okay? Now, scholars often assume between the ideal Sullivan, blah, blah, blah. Final battle, compare the final battle between Messiah. Yep. Okay. The maiden whose title overpowered, thus overpowering all, the overcomer of all. Because though giving birth, she gives power. My bad. I think we already went to this. My bad. Yeah. I'm lit. I'm sorry. I'm lit. You know me, dude. Okay. Perpetual growth will be 17 years. All the splendor, glory, and power which have arisen from all the processing splendor, glory, and power. Can't even bring it up for you because it's too high. Many inferior human beings will be aroused, splendid and powerful. Through the power and glory, troops friend are smitten. All mankind remain in one accord, and the religion of Azurmatra, owing the will of the Creator and the command that apostle, that the resources of his companions. So this tells you all the religions gonna go out, even Zoroastrian, all of them, dead. And they're all going to be replaced by a new religion, a new way to think about God and your relationship with Him. A new covenant is going to be formed with Him. And this is said in the Bible. This is said in the Quran. It says that the Mahdi is going to tell the Muslims, you don't live like this anymore. You don't do this anymore. You don't pray like this anymore. You do this now. And the Muslims are like, yes, sir, you're the Mahdi. Every religion, same story. Same source. It's all the same source. The only question is, who is that source? And if you look at the material versus the agenda of the beast, the godless governments, I think you can see the two are clearly not aligned in the slightest. Telling you clearly that source is indeed God. All the world's major religions were created by the same entity for the same purpose, to instill the same knowledge to us humans throughout different eons and epochs and time and culture and regions and races and mindsets and everything. Culture is everything. It's all there. All you have to do is just keep asking the question, but why is that? And sooner or later, you're going to end up at rock bottom if you give the proper answers and you're not just feeding into egotistical, agendical bullshit, narrative bullshit, and you're actually trying to follow the breadcrumb trail to the truth that God has left for us all. It says he's left us, and many in the Bible it says this. He's left many signs in place for the true believers to slowly have their epiphanies and realize the world is the way it is because God made it that way. And he made it that way because it was the best way he could have made it, the best way he could have done it to accomplish what he wanted to do, which was essentially to build a legion of allies to support him, his cause, and his endeavors, and his trials and tribulations, however we can. He does not want an army of slaves. He wants a legion of comrades. He wants us to be propped up as high as we can and be good, thoughtful, loving beings that have dedicated our lives to charity and benefit and helping, other things, and not being selfish and cruel and inflicting more pain and suffering in this world as so many humans do. Anyways, that's about all I got for today. I think I've delayed this long enough. Next week, I think I'm going all in on my gravitational field theory. And we're going to officially conquer all of metaphysics. It's done, baby, if you know me. It's done. I'm just waiting for the right moment to pull the trigger because I love the scene. It is what it is. Alright, adios muchachos. Catch you on the flip side.
Like, subscribe, submit.